Yoma Daf Nun Dalid. Today's email comes from Yosef Bilyak. He's the one that's in charge of the emails for MDY, and he writes, I'm not one to email in because it's a little strange to email myself, to email you. Anyway, this isn't about me, this is about Zalman Tzvi, my son, and his friend, one of the newest youth members of MDY, Laser Rubin, both 11 years old. Tonight, they were Messiah Mishnayis Pesachim. They stayed up all night Shavuos so they could finish it. Mazel Tov. The last 18 months have been hard for us all, but I've seen these two boys keep learning, and this is the third siyum they have made together. I asked them, what's next? And they said, now it's all about the daf. They do come every single day and they do the daf. It's been a while, probably from the beginning of brachas or so. My wife and I are so proud of them both. I want to thank you and the whole MDY family for putting the geschmack back into Gemara for me, and that has in turn influenced my whole family and now my kids' friends as well. Yosef Bilyak. See attached pictures. Thank you, Yosef. Mazel Tov. And real quickly, very interesting, we received two similar emails. One from Ezra Cohen. He says he's in Panama and we have a group chat of over 200 balabatim who do the daf daily, and they recently came across the 8-minute daf. I was astonished to see the simplicity and great coverage of the daf in such a short time, and etc. etc. So that's Ezra Cohen from Panama. And then David Kobeni, writing from St. Paulo, Brazil. I help manage dafyomi.com, Daf Brazil, that gives Daf Yomi Shur in Portuguese. Came across your 8-minute app and see some great visual aid content under the sheet section. If you have additional material that's not been published yet, Toda Rabban Hazaku Baruch for the great work. David, thank you. Yoma Daf Nun Daled. It says in the pasuk regarding the Aron, in addition to the words that the Aron is going to be in the Kodesh HaKadoshim Ad Hayom Hazeh, it says Sham. And the Gemara tells us because it says Sham, it's more specific. It is going to be there and buried in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Without the word Sham, not necessarily that Ad Hayom Hazeh means till this very day. We find it says Vayosh Vayivusi is Bnei Binyamin Ad Hayom Hazeh. We know that Binyamin isn't in Eretz Yisrael Ad Hayom Hazeh. It says, Rabbi Yehuda says, the Klal Yisrael was in Galus for 52 years. They weren't in Yerushalayim for 52 years, desolate. And 7 years, the entire Eretz Yisrael was Gofres v'Melach, Sreifa Kol Ha'aretz. However, we have a problem, and a tiyuf that the Gemara says from Bnei Shimon. They were in Har Seir, and it says, Vayeshu Sham Ad Hayom Hazeh, and it says the word Sham, and Sham should mean that they were there until this very day, but we know that's not so. Why? Because Sancheriv came and was mebalbel them, took people out, spread everybody around the world, so they weren't there Ad Hayom Hazeh. The Gemara tells us there were two Kayanim, that they had a mum, and therefore they gave him a job to deworm the wood for the Mizbeach. And one of them was playing around with his axe, throwing it up, throwing it down, and it fell on the floor, and he noticed that one of the tiles on the floor was different than the other ones. And he realized that that's probably where they lifted up the tiles and they put the Aron in there. So he ran to tell his friend, and before he was able to get to his friend, a fire came and killed him. So they realized right away, because of the special fire, that the Aron was buried there. The Badim, that is the poles that are attached to the Aron, and that's how they carried the Aron, B'neis, they became, according to Marsha, 10 amos longer when they were put into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and they pushed the paroiches like the top of a woman. Now it's not just a mashal, it's to show the love that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has with Klal Yisrael, like a zachar and a nekeva. Rav Katina says that when Klal Yisrael came to Oile Regel and Bayis Rishon, they lifted up the paroichesim of the Sha'arim, of the gates, of the Ulam, the Heichal, the Kodesh HaKadoshim, so that Klal Yisrael could see straight into the Kodesh HaKadoshim and see the kruvim that Shlomo HaMelech made, and the kruvim were hugging each other. And they would tell Klal Yisrael, look at your love that Kodesh Baruch Hu has to you, like that of a Zachar and a Nekeva. Now, Klal Yisrael was permitted to look into the Kodesh HaKadoshim because at that point, they're already used to it. The Gemara gives a mashal like a kala who's used to her husband, she's already married for a while. But in the Midbar, they were embarrassed and shy of the Kodesh HaKadoshim, like a kala who is newly married or she's just engaged. So that would be a chiyuv misa if they look into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Later on in Bayis Sheni, that busha came back because it's like a divorcee coming back to her husband. So therefore, once again, you would be chiyuv misa if you looked into Kodesh HaKadoshim. It's possible that they showed them these kruvim not in the Bayis Rishon, but rather in Bayis Sheni. And it wasn't the real kruvim, but it was a depiction on the wall of the kruvim. Because in the Bayis Sheni, there were no kruvim. In the Bayis Sheni, the Gemara tells us there were 13 paroichesim. 7 were for the gates, 1 for the Heichal, and another one for the Ulam. Two were by the traction, like we discussed yesterday, the dividing wall, the partition between the Heichal and the Kodesh Kodashim, so that's two, and another two above that on the second floor. There were also pareichasin in the Bayis Rishon and all the doorways. Rosh Lakish says, when the Goyim saw the Kruvim, they brought the Kruvim out into the street, and they said, look at these Kruvim hugging each other. The Jews, who the bracha is a bracha, their klala is a klala, and this is what they're dealing with, these kind of things, arayis, erva, it doesn't make sense. And they looked down at Klal Yisrael, but they didn't realize how that is actually Kedusha. Even Shesiyah, we said there was a stone Even Shesiyah. Why is it called Even Shesiyah? Because the entire world started from that stone. And like Chachamim, the Machlekes Rebbe Elazar and Chachamim, Rebbe Eliezer HaGadol says, Talei Shemayim were created from Shemayim. Talei Eretz were created from Eretz. But Chacham said no, everything was created from Yerushalayim, from that Even Shesiyah. And some say from Yerushalayim it started, but Rebbe Elazar says it started from the center. Rebbe Shua says it started from the four sides of the world. And Rebbe Nafa says Rebbe threw a stone into the ocean, and from that the entire universe was created. Have a wonderful day.